for me, I just always wanted to be able to have enough reserves in the bank to cover those properties. And as long as I think the biggest thing is as long as you can float the properties, you're going to be okay. If you look back to 2008, 2009, things were horrible. But if you had strong cash flowing rental properties, it doesn't matter if your rental drops 50% in value, which is unlikely. But even if it did, as long as it's still cash flowing and you can float that property, you're going to make it through and real estate will be okay. And so that's kind of where I approach my investing from.
I really like how you talked about cash reserves. That's another topic that I don't think a lot of real estate investors talk about, although it's, if you study Warren Buffett, and maybe you could talk about that some, when you go to a Berkshire Hathaway meeting and listen to Warren Buffett, one of the refrains he always has is that we have, more cash, huge amount of cash because they're in the insurance business and we might have 10 hurricanes at one time or something. So how has that influenced you at all, studying the stock market and studying businesses that are resilient and how that's affected your strategy with real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been Buffett. It's kind of been a culmination of things. So it's been Buffett originally. And to your point, people have been harping on him a lot lately because I think he's deployed some of this now, but he had over $100 billion, I believe it was, on his balance sheet. And a lot of people are saying, when are you going to deploy this? When are you going to deploy this? And he's telling people like, listen, we're mainly in the insurance business. A lot of our businesses are shutting down. If we get hit with a hurricane right now or two hurricanes, we're going to need a lot of that money, for reserves for these insurance businesses. So when you take that into consideration, there's a lot of money that needs to stay on the balance sheet to be safe in that case. So yes, that definitely was a piece of it. And also, and like we said, I'm in my mid 20s, I'm only 25, but as I get older, I'm actually becoming a lot more debt adverse. So originally I had no problem with debt. I was fine with it as long as it was serviceable. But lately I've been kind of reading a little bit more about Dave Ramsey and going towards that and having less debt philosophy. And so for me, I just always wanted to be able to have enough reserves in the bank to cover those properties. And I think the biggest thing is as long as you can float the properties, you're going to be okay. If you look back to 2008, 2009, things were horrible. But if you had strong cash flowing rental properties, it doesn't matter if your rental drops 50% in value, which is unlikely. But even if it did, as long as it's still cash flowing and you can float that property, you're going to make it through and real estate will be okay. And so that's kind of where I approach my investing from.
Yeah, I like that approach. I think I resonate with that as well. And I'm sort of halfway in between the go all in on debt camp in real estate, which is a big part of what, we hear a lot in the Bigger Pockets community, a lot of friends there. And then all the way in the Dave Ramsey community, which is like zero debt, nothing. And what I respect about Dave Ramsey's philosophy is just, it's a healthy respect for the dangers of it. And for going back to the uncertainty of it, there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with certain kinds of debt. Like not all debt's equal. And some of the friends that I saw, investor friends who went down in 2008 and 2009, they had made bad debt. They had major negative cash flow, not only from the rentals, but then they'd have a balloon note come due from a bank who said, hey, we want to call your loans due right here in the middle of the recession because all the banks wanted their money. And so I think there's a lot of risk in debt. When you think about the debt you sign at a closing, it's usually like 50 pages, 100 pages. And who do you think wrote that document? It wasn't your buddies. It wasn't your attorney. It was a high paid attorney, one of the best attorneys that the bank could find to make sure they had you under their thumb. And that's a pretty harrowing thought to have. That doesn't mean you shouldn't borrow money. That means you better really get a good deal. You better get a long-term fixed interest rate. You better get a low interest rate. If you're getting seller financing or something that's very flexible, that's helpful. But Dave Ramsey's been very helpful to me as well, just to help me find some balance and some risk averse. And I'm in that same camp now. We are maintaining some debt, but we're paying debt off as well. That's been a strategy probably for 4 or 5 years now, just to continue. Once you reach a certain level, it's just like, all right, I could get a little bit bigger. But is that extra risk worth the extra gain? Probably not. Let's pay some debt off, simplify, increase our cash flow a little bit.
Yeah, I really like how you put that because I'm in the middle as well. I was all in on debt originally, but I've gradually come towards Dave Ramsey as well. I'm not there at all, like completely, but I'm in the middle. And I think it depends a lot on how you manage your business and also the type of debt. So, I'm fully in the Dave Ramsey camp for credit card debt, 100%. I'm even getting there, honestly, for auto loan debt. But for real estate investing specifically and your own personal residence, I don't necessarily agree. I think leverage could be okay. But for me, it depends on how you manage your business. I had 12 months of cash flow or of cash for the mortgage payment in a bank account. I was completely okay with the leverage, and I would leverage it again. I'd leverage another property. It just depends on how much cash you have in the bank and how much reserves and how risky that property is. I know where the market is. I know it's a very strong rental market, but if you're in a weak rental market, you're having trouble finding tenants, it's a lower quality tenant population or even property, you don't have a lot of cash in the bank, then yeah, you might not want to be too over leveraged.
Well said. There's a lot of nuance there. So yeah, you can't painting it with a broad stroke either way is probably the dangerous part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed that video clip of my interview with Robert Leonard. If you'd like to see the entire interview, be sure to see the link to my podcast below. And I would love to hear from you. Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments, any suggestions? Let me know in the comments below and we'll have a discussion after the video. And if you like this type of video about financial independence and about how to achieve financial independence, I think you'll like the playlist below that shows you other videos I've talked about the first steps of financial independence, of interviews with other people who've achieved it. And you can find out more at that link. And if you're new to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss any videos that are coming out in the future. Thank you so much for being here. You've been watching Coach Carson TV. My name is Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach. And this channel is all about investing in real estate, achieving financial independence, and doing more of what matters. See you next time.